Hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Alice.
Hey now.
Greg, what are you doing here?
Hey, what do you mean? Allison,
Where'd you come from, Greg?
I came from the world of Childish, and I just want to make sure that your listeners know that you're just as wonderful on the other podcast you do.
What if they don't have kids?
Don't need them. You don't need them. A lot of our listeners actually tell us they don't have kids. We talk about sex.
We talk about all sorts of dirty stuff,
Yeah.
but also parenting stuff.
Yeah, so.
Check out Childish. New episodes every Wednesday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Childish, oh shit, maybe I should have got it fixed.
Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her the good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison's your new best friend.
Hey, everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Allison Rosen is your new best friend. I'm very excited to introduce my guest in a moment. But first, I must catch up with producer Tony Thaxton. Now, Tony, hello.
Hello.
I'm going to break the fourth wall for a second, and I'm going to say that our guest just danced to the theme song in such an infectious and wonderful way that I feel like we're going to need to include that in the video. We've been streamlining the video, so now it's just all slick, and it's just like, oh, here I am. This is youtube.com/Allison Rosen. It's just like, here I am talking to you, and then like, boop, Allison's your new best friend goes across the screen and stuff. But no, we need like they need the full dance. So Pete is going to have his hands full this week figuring that out, because that brought me a lot of joy. Anyway, Tony, so we will bring our guest in a moment. How are you doing, Tony?
I'm doing all right. I played a show last night in a real venue, and I felt it was a very fun and normal feeling night. Although today I kind of feel like I was hit by a truck, and my body's very sore because I haven't played a show in a very long time.
Yeah,
and the part I was not expecting, and I just hadn't thought about this. Like by the end of the night, my throat hurt.
Yeah, just from talking.
I had. Well, yeah, and having to talk louder. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've barely raised my voice in a year and a half. Yeah. So, it was like, I was getting all sore and raspy by the end of the night. But, we're all right now. But, just feeling a little sore today.
I know you've been ramping up to the physical activity of playing a full you played drums for 2 bands, right?
No, the last night was just with Jonah Ray.
Well, I know you've been ramping. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, just in a couple of weeks, I have a night where I'm doing 2 bands. Yeah.
Yes. So I know you've been ramping up by hiking and trying to like get back into shape for exerting yourself physically. But I feel like maybe when you go on your hikes, you should also be screaming to build up your vocal cords.
You might be right. Yeah. Because it really is. Because I do, and I sing a little bit too. So it's gonna have to get that going again too.
So you played a show at the Sardine in San Pedro. And the Sardine, a venue which I have not heard of, except my band way back in the day had played in San Pedro. And I'm wondering, did the Sardine used to be called something else maybe?
Probably, because I do think I heard someone saying that it's kind of newish. But I don't know what it was before that, though. Because it definitely is not. It's not a new building, but I think the actual place is newish. Yeah.
So on the most recent Thursday show with Helen Hong and Jackie Johnson, the location of San Pedro came up, and I feel like everyone was wrong about where San Pedro was. Except for me. I didn't say anything. I do not have a good sense of direction. Show me a map. I can't point out anything on it. But however, someone was like, San Pedro, oh, I think that's where you live. That's near you, Helen. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't think it is. When you went to San Pedro, were you like, oh, this is not where I thought it was?
No, it's kind of where I thought it was. I don't know in reality how close to LAX it is, but in my head it was like that vicinity. Because you just get on the 110 and take it all the way to the end, basically.
I think of it as closer to Long Beach. But I guess Long Beach and LAX are. Again, this is where my lack of sense of direction comes in.
I'm not great with some of that myself. Yeah. So I'm not the best person to ask.
This is that hyper-local content that the people tune in for.
Oh,
so I want to introduce our guest in a moment. I just want to share some big personal news in my personal evolution. Tony, I don't know how aware you are of me having become just like a bitter troll of a person. When I hear other people's good news, especially if I see it on Instagram, I just think, why not me? Why not me? As I scroll, why not me? Oh, I guess that didn't happen to me. When's it my turn? I guess it's never going to be my turn. Why not me?
No, I have not noticed this at all, Allison.
I mean, I have a song dedicated to it. Do you have it? Do you have Hooray for You?
Oh, I'm sure I do.
I see that you've done something that I really want to do. Well, hooray for you. And now you're getting kudos while I sit here getting screwed. Hooray for you. I am so very happy that this fortune came your way. I didn't mean to say you don't deserve to have your day. However, you'll forgive me if I feel compelled to say hooray for you.
Yes, that comes up enough that we needed a song. But today, twice now, I have heard of good news, entertainment-based good news happening to two separate people, and I have felt nothing but just pure happiness for them. Do you know how rare that is for me, Tony? It is like... And it's not like it's not like I've been working on it or anything. It just happened. Mm-hmm. Sort of like how I imagine people, and so many people we know lately, losing their sense of smell. And then one day, and because of COVID, and then one day it just comes back. That's what it is. Like, oh my God, my ability to be a good person who's happy for someone else. It just came back.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Proud of you.
I mean,
you've really grown a lot.
Well, it's more like maybe I'm no longer suffering from this regression, this poison in my soul. I don't know what it is. But speaking of like being a self-evolved person and all of this, my guest today is someone who I think of as very wise and self-actualized. We will find out how much she sees herself that way. She is a writer, a podcast host, a mom, wife of someone who's been on the show many times and is a fan favorite. It is LeeAnn Kreischer. Please put your hands together for LeeAnn. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Very excited to talk with you. So Greg and I interviewed you on my other podcast, Childish, and at the beginning of one of your answers, you said, just in a very offhand way, you're like, I don't know how much you know about my backstory, but blah, blah, blah. And at that moment, I was like, I don't know that much about your backstory, and I want to find out, and I need to have you on Allison Rosen as your new best friend. And here we are.
And here we are. And congratulations on your evolution.
Thank you very much. You know, the irony is, in the course of talking about how I was happy for other people, I was like bragging about myself.
Well,
here I am, able to feel happiness for other people. What about you? Do you generally feel happiness for other people?
Almost always. I actually am not a very competitive person with other people. I feel like what happens for someone else has very little to do with me. So we're all kind of running our own race. So I compete with myself, but I don't really compete with other people now.
Man, you are as pure and good as I think of you as.
I don't know about that.
I really do think of you as like very wise, mature, self-actualized. How much? Here's like 3 questions at once. How much is that true? And have you always been that way? If it is true.
I think it is kind of true. I'm definitely not perfect. There are many times, and especially in my relationship with my husband, where I am not super self-actualized because I'm a regular married person. And sometimes I'm a little like, what about me? Like everybody else. But I think I might be, and that's kind of hard to say, but I think I might be kind of wise. My mom used to say I was born 40 years old. So I think I've always been kind of an old soul. But there was a time in my life where I was really screwed up. So I definitely have worked very hard to become who I am today. It was not just a sweet, easy path.
Right. Sure. What kind of work did you do to get past that?
I did a lot of therapy. I'm still in therapy. But, you know, I believe that my mom has a borderline personality disorder. And when you grow up with someone who has that type of challenge, you're not growing up in like a real world. You're growing up in a world that they believe is real. And then once you step out into the real world, it's so like discombobulating. You just don't, I mean, I remember standing in the grocery store when I was 23 crying because I didn't know which butter to buy because I didn't want to buy the butter my mother made me buy. And it's like, as stupid as that sounds, it's kind of a window into how much being raised by someone who's really off affects your own internal compass. So, you know, I when I was in my 20s, I was I don't know how much you want me to talk about this stuff.
I would love to hear as deep as you want to go. I am all ears, and my listeners love when people are honest, you know, about their background and about their emotional truth and stuff. So please go into all of it.
Okay. Well, my parents divorced when I was 7. My mom was the highest paid model in Atlanta for about 9 years. She was a runway model in Italy, but she grew up in a really, really small town in Alabama. And I believe she has a borderline personality disorder. And I believe she has a lot of sociopathic pieces to her. And I believe that for reasons like she used to make me steal things when I was a child because she'd tell me if I got caught, I wouldn't get in trouble. But if she got caught, she would get in trouble. That's one example. She's divorced her 6th husband now. I don't have a relationship with her now because she has every 10 years of my life starting at age 13 completely disowned me and not talked to me for years because I've done something that she has not approved of. So the disorder I believe she has is narcissism as a personality disorder, and anything that disagrees with a narcissistic person is actually they feel is life-threatening. It's like you're actually trying to kill me because you're not buying the butter I told you to buy. So anytime I would go against her, I would be dead for years, for like 2 years, 4 years. And then I would always go, surely I can make this work. I mean, I must have done something wrong. I mean, I've got to be able to fix this. And so I would always reach out and reconnect, and the cycle would continue. Would be okay for a while, and then all of a sudden I'm dead. And I'm dead for years. And, you know, she would ask me to lie about really serious things. I got subpoenaed to court for her 4th divorce because for my stepfather, because she had made all these outrageous claims about his behavior that were untrue. And I had to go and be a witness for him. It's just, you know, just insanity. So by the time
he called you.
Oh yeah, I got subpoenaed on his behalf.
That must have been very hard for you to be caught in the middle like that.
It was terrible. And I remember her saying to me, "How dare you show up?" And I was like, I was subpoenaed. Like someone served me in the Atlanta airport. What was I supposed to do? I would not have been able to come back to the state of Georgia if I hadn't shown up. But I think to this day, she blames me for it. That was such a betrayal. And I was like, so there's so much that just doesn't really fall under the usual rules of society about the way she functioned my entire life. So this led me, by the time I was a teenager, to be really, really lost. So I started drinking very young, started drinking at 13 and drank very heavily. I started getting into really dangerous behavior like drag racing and, you know, jumping off bridges into rivers and stuff that is really scary. And I really think that I was hoping it would turn out badly without really being suicidal, but really hoping this would just kind of end. And then when I got in college, I was drinking so much that I started losing my hair and my liver had become enlarged and I was in really bad shape. And I just thought to myself, why am I doing this? Like, there's a problem here that's causing me to have all this terrible punitive behavior toward myself. Is that what I want my entire life to be? I don't think so. I really think that I am really unhappy in a core level that I don't really understand. So that kind of realization started happening. And then I had terrible headaches my entire childhood, all through teenage years. And I went to a Halloween party And there were psychic tents at this Halloween party. And I went in and the psychic said, "Oh, you have really bad headaches." I said, "Yeah." She said, I think I know this guy who can help you. Gave me this guy's card. I went to see that guy the next week. I walked in the door and he goes, "Oh, you've got really big issues with your mom." And I went, "I do." And he goes, "You have really bad headaches." And I said, "I do." And he was like, "I think I can help you." He was actually a Reiki guy. I don't know if you're familiar with Reiki,
Yeah.
but he was like, Reiki's about manipulating your energy, and energy gets trapped in your body, especially when you have some traumatic emotional stuff. It gets kind of trapped in your body. So I started working with him and I started reading books like voraciously. And I decided I needed to move out of Georgia and get out away from my mom. So I moved to New York City and got into therapy. And I think the combination of me saying, "Okay, I've lost my hair. My liver is enlarged. I'm really kind of off in a ditch here." And the psychic sending me to this guy who just saw me so clearly, and my want to not be unhappy, those things kind of combined made me start seeking out who I really was and to start understanding that who I was told I was by my mom was completely inaccurate.
Who did she tell you were?
She told me I was a really bad person. She told me that I was a really bad daughter, that I betrayed her all the time, that I misbehaved a lot. She told me I was fat. I weighed 100 pounds.
Oh.
She told me that, I was trying to be a writer. And she was like, "Well, you never be a good writer because you think too much." Yeah, she thought I was gay. She thought I was gay forever. And I'm like, I'm totally not gay. I actually have had lots of boyfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you?
Right. Why did she insist on that?
Like every single piece of my real self, she would attack. I want to be a writer. You'll never be good at that. Well, I want to do, I don't know. I don't remember what else I wanted to do when I was young, but why do you think you'd ever be good at that? I don't know what you're thinking. She didn't hit me. She didn't throw me across the room. I was not molested, but I definitely grew up in an environment where I could only make her choice. There was no other choice. It was so, let's put it this way. When I was 8, I broke my ribs jumping on the trampoline and I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her for a week because I didn't want her to see any vulnerability in me at all. It was so unsafe to have any vulnerability.
Right.
And I don't know if you ever broken your ribs. It's really bad. It hurts a lot.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I'm just going to go in my room and just close the door and just deal.
And then you did finally tell her?
She caught me crying and she got really mad at me because I never told her. And there's lots of other things she did. Like she was very controlling with my bowel movements. Like she tracked my bowel movements when I'm like 10, 11, 12 years old. I took 21 vitamins a day. She used to make me drink niacin. I could only eat like completely whole natural foods, no cheese, no sugar. If I had popcorn, she'd put brewer's yeast all over it because it's super healthy. So everything was just so very controlled. There was no freedom. And when she left my dad, she moved us into a predominantly gay community because she thought the safest place for a little girl was with a lot of gay men, which is really smart, except there are no children there.
Right.
I was by myself.
Was it just you and your mom? Do you have siblings?
No, I don't have siblings. No. I don't even have any step siblings. After all these marriages, she's married people who don't have kids.
Got it.
So she can be the focus. So, but they never work out. And she always goes, it's because he's an asshole. Well, one of the times we stopped talking was because I said, there's one common denominator in all of your marriages and it's you. So maybe you should think, what do I bring to the equation? Like he's bringing whatever he brings, but what do I bring? And of course, then I don't talk to her again for 6 months because that was so disrespectful. And, Bert for a long time. And I think a lot of people who don't grow up with parents who are really, truly unhealthy don't understand when a child is done. When I got pregnant with Georgia, I was done. My mom had again disowned me when I got pregnant. and thought it was
Because you got pregnant?
Yes, it was really disrespectful to her. It has nothing to do with her. It was so. That's what I mean. It's like so.
Right.
It's
distorted.
It's not normal. And Bert kept saying, "There's got to be some way," which is what I spent my whole life doing.
Mm-hmm.
But when that happened, I went, "Oh, she will not do this to my kids. Like there is absolutely no way that she will do this. What she did to me, to my kids, no way." So I was like, "I'm dead to you. Perfect. Then I'm really dead this time. I'm not trying again." But Bert kept saying, over and over again, "I don't understand why this won't work." And I was still in touch with her mom. One time I went to visit her mom, and I think Georgia was 8 and Isla was 6. She'd never met my husband, didn't come to my wedding, never met my children ever, and walked in her mom's house when I was there with my whole family and went, "Hey guys, it's your Nani." And I was like, "What? I haven't seen you in I don't know, 9 years.
Yeah.
And you're Nani? You're fucking crazy." Sorry for the F-bomb. You're crazy.
No. We use all kinds of F-bombs. Had your grandmother arranged that with her?
Nope. My grandmother had told her I was coming so that she wouldn't come over, and she came over anyway.
Oh.
And so I just totally imploded and shut down. And Bert was like, "I've never seen you like that ever." I was shaking on the inside. And I went back to being 8 years old. It was a visceral reaction. And after that, she wrote me this letter that was addressed to me with my name misspelled.
Sorry.
And I gave it to Bert.
LeeAnn was misspelled?
She just
Kreischer?
wrote L. Kreischer.
But she misspelled Kreischer.
She misspelled Kreischer. And so I just gave it to Bert, and I was like, "I don't even want to read it. I can tell you right now, because she addressed it to L. Kreischer, it's not going to be good."
Right.
So he took it in our backyard, and he came back in, and he went, "That fucking bitch is not ever coming in our life again." I have no idea what the letter said, but I'm sure I've heard it before. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "That's it. I will never ask you to reconcile with her again. I get it." And I was like, "Thank you," because I've been trying to get you to get it.
Yeah.
For 10, 11 years now. And at a certain point, I feel really bad that she's so broken. I feel it really makes me sad that she will never know what love is, because I am a very loving person. I would love her, but I can't let myself be just beat up on all the time, every time I'm with her.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I can't feel that way,
It sounds as if she's not capable of having a relationship with you that's anything other than painful, toxic, destructive.
Yes. And she's done some things that are illegal that I don't want to talk about on the podcast, but where you would go, okay. I was talking to Dr. Drew about her, and he was like, "Okay, just so you know, she's not a sociopath, she's a psychopath. She's just moved into this other arena of not okay."
That's really interesting.
So.
I thought that psychopath and sociopath are synonyms, but he's saying that there's a difference.
The difference is a psychopath has no regard for human life.
And a sociopath does, though?
Has a little more than a psychopath.
Got it. So it's like a spectrum. Mm-hmm. Wow.
A psychopath is like someone who would just kill.
Yeah.
And they're right in doing so. So,
jeez.
You can read between those lines. And,
you got to tell off. I hope off mic you'll tell me.
I'll tell you off camera. It was.
I feel like we've just pivoted into a true crime podcast or something.
Right. So I definitely earned my wisdom, I think. I've definitely earned it. I've worked really, really hard to not repeat the things I saw, and to not to only take, because she wasn't all bad. She was, I think I kind of have her personality. She's really charming. She's really funny. She never meets a stranger. She's absolutely beautiful. She's fun. She sings a lot. She's the life of the party when she's there.
She's naughty.
Yeah. And then when the door closes, you're like, uh-oh, this is not great.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to ask, how was she perceived by the other people around you guys when you were growing up?
interesting question. Everybody loved her. Everybody thought she was just amazing. But in 7th grade, she bought a house in a suburb of Atlanta. And we moved across the street from a family that had 4 kids. Their oldest daughter was my age, and we ended up being best friends. And in the middle of 8th grade, we moved there in 7th grade. In the middle of 8th grade, they built a house somewhere else. And the dad sat me down at the dining room table and said, we have built this house and we have built a room for you. And I would like to legally adopt you because I cannot leave you here with your mother.
Wow.
And that was the first time someone besides my dad saw her for who she was. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what she did or how he and his wife saw it and no one else did, but they did. And he was like, I just can't leave you here with her. I can't.
And how did you feel when he said that?
It completely and entirely mortified. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed that someone saw that. Mm-hmm. At the time, it was really embarrassing. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much of a savior that whole family was for me, and how much I model my current life after that year and a half. I pretty much lived with them. I got off the bus from school and stayed at their house till it was time to go to sleep. And most days I just slept there. And my mom didn't mind. I was out of her hair. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I mean, my mom's house was all the furniture was white. You couldn't sit on it. I had to sit on the floor, and I'd go over to their house and they're like, dogs are everywhere and dirt's everywhere and everybody's in the pool and people are fighting and throwing things. And I just thought it was heaven. Yeah. So I thought when I grow up, I would like to have that. I don't think I would like to have what I grew up in.
Right. And you kind of do, except I remember you having white covers on your couches. And I was like, how? But you said, I remember you saying something like, I need something that I can take off and wash.
That's right. I was like, white can be bleached. Bring it on. I can bleach it. So you're right. I do have white couches like my mom, but they are slip covered and they are bleachable. So
I can, that actually makes a lot of sense to me that you felt mortified though, because especially at that age, I would imagine you probably felt a lot of loyalty to your mom and, what am I trying to say? Not only loyalty, but at that age, you don't necessarily feel like a separate person. So it's like someone saying something negative about your mom is also negative about you.
That's not true.
Okay,
that might be true for some people, but I don't remember ever feeling loyalty to my mom. My mom left for about 1.5 years when I was 4 and didn't come back. And my dad kind of like fell apart. Mm-hmm. And at 4, I think I had to grow up at such a young age. And I think I understood that it was her fault. Mm. And I think from that point on, I just didn't trust her.
Got it.
And then the behaviors that started happening, the lies, I would watch her tell a lie, and I was smart enough to go, hey, wait a minute, that's a lie. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't like that. I remember feeling those feelings when I was really young.
Wow.
And just not trusting her. Like I never felt safe with her. I never felt like I could be myself or show her any emotion. So I spent most of my childhood with her completely deadened of emotion. Because, I mean, I couldn't even take a shit without her watching me.
Right.
You know, and making sure I actually did it. Like, I don't know any kid that goes, watch this. I'm going to pretend to take a shit, and then I'm not going to take a shit. Nobody does that. You don't think like that.
No. Although my son Owen, 2.5, is holding it right now, and it has been days of like. I get that your mom has a, off the charts personality disorder and charted your poop. However, I'm sitting here being like, I am totally doing that with him right now. And every day is a new fiber gummies, Miralax, this, and I'm just holding on. I don't want to have to do a suppository, but I feel like that's where it's headed. But anyway, just saying.
He's 2.5 and I was 9.
Yeah, no,
I was 9.
Yeah.
That's too old.
Yeah, that's really, really violating. Well, see, that's what I'm saying about you being wise from the beginning. You saw your mom so clearly. That's impressive.
I don't know what that was. I don't know, but I did. At really young, I just didn't trust her.
Yeah. So you have 2 daughters. Have they never met her except for that one time?
Just, I'm Nani. It's Nani. And I was like, what the fuck word is Nani? I mean, I'm from Georgia. That's like an Italian name. What are you talking about? But I continued to be still close-ish to her mom and dad. And when her dad passed away, we went to his funeral. And I saw her again there. And so bizarre. She spoke to me one time at this funeral. And she gave me this very self-righteous speech about honor and how a child should honor their parent. And it was a long speech, and it was very, very intentional on her part. And I just watched her give me this load of shit about honor and thought, you are one crazy ass bitch. I'm so glad that I don't have you around. And my kids were with me. So she did this in front of my 2 daughters. And they literally were like, when it was over, my oldest daughter went, what was that about? I think Georgia was probably 12 maybe when that happened. And I was like, that was about history. That was not about now.
Yeah.
So let her have her history, because I'm not living in that.
Right.
I've moved on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you moved to New York, got into therapy, and is that the point that things started turning around?
No, I think the thing about therapy, if you're really going to do it, it's really hard and it hurts a lot. And the time that I was in New York was very dark. Like I cut all my hair off. I started like dressing like a boy. I got really lost in trying to find myself. So it was very difficult. Living in New York, the semantics of living in New York was awesome. I loved the city. I loved all the, the stimulation. I loved the park. I loved the buildings. I loved all that. But then I'd go home at night and still, I was just really determined to work on myself. I was determined to be happy. And I just didn't know how to be happy. So that took a lot of work. It was like kind of like gutting a fruit so that you can use the peel to fill it up with something else. That's kind of like what I did in New York. New York was a very difficult time for me because I was super committed to kind of pulling things up by the roots. So I cried a lot. I used to lock myself in the closet and just cry because I didn't want my neighbors to hear me crying and think, oh, what's happening in that apartment?
Yeah.
But I was like, it's really kind of the only way through it because a lot of my pain was from being a child. And, sometimes you don't even understand your feelings when you're a child, but they're still in your body and your psyche. And the disappointment and the upset and the insecurity of having that mom was very scary for a child. It's really scary to not know who that person is when you come home from school. Is she going to be nice? Or is she going to be really mean? I don't really know. And that was very scary. And, she was very mean to my dad. And I absolutely love my dad. I only saw him every other weekend. And she was just so mean to him. And I didn't like that either. And so that made me not trust her either. So it's just a lot to process. And I think somehow, the Reiki guy said to me, the only way out of it is through it. So you're just going to have to feel it. And he told me too, when he started working on me, he was like, you have more sadness in your body than anyone I've ever seen as a patient, ever. Wow. So until you process all this sadness, you can't fill that cavern with happiness. You have to process the sadness. So my goal when I was in New York, I watched every sad movie. I watched Beaches probably on a loop. And I was just like, I just need to trigger this because I spent my whole life shutting down emotions. I couldn't really cry in the movie theater. Like I'd go see movies and I'd be like stone. And I'd know in my brain, this is actually really sad, but I can't access that part of myself.
Right.
It just was too unsafe. So I literally did that. I watched Terms of Endearment and Beaches and any kind of death and dying and terrible. And then I just let myself cry. So yeah, New York was intense.
How long were you there?
4 years.
And had you gone there to pursue a certain thing career-wise?
I did. I went there to study acting. And in the study of acting, I figured out I'm not an actor. I'm actually a writer. So I just wanted to be creative, I think, in my reason for going there. I took an acting class just kind of like because I was bored in college. And my acting teacher said, you're actually quite talented. If you want to pursue this, you should go to New York and really study. So I was like, well, okay, I'm not happy in Georgia for a myriad of reasons. I'll just go to New York. I had never been there. And I got off the bus at the Port Authority in 1993, and it was like, peep show, peep show, peep show, triple X, nudie picture. And I was like, what is happening? It's before Disney took over Times Square. It was really rough. Yeah. And I ended up living like Riverside and 120th, which is a pretty rough part of town up just below Columbia University. And I was so broke. There was this Italian restaurant called La Familia, and I would buy one huge pan of spaghetti and eat it for 5 days because that's all I could afford. And there's so much value to that kind of jumping off the cliff and just throwing myself into this place I'd never been to, and then going through all this emotional upheaval at the same time. I could be really anonymous there too. You can get completely lost in New York City. So yeah, I went there to study acting, and then while I was acting, I was like, well, no one's hiring me because I have a Southern accent. And they keep saying, you got to get rid of your accent. And I keep saying, but why? But why? Why don't I just write something that has a Southern accent? So that's what I did. I wrote a one act that had a Southern accent, and I produced it with some friends. And then I was like, hey, I actually like this better. So
interesting. So that's when you realized writing is more what you want to do. I have to tell you, I lived in New York for 9 years after it had been cleaned up. But I had started therapy in California. But New York is really, I'm just relating a lot to what you're saying about the transformation that happened in New York. Because for me, that also was where I was like, I am noticing these patterns that I don't want to continue, and I want to just like strip away everything and figure this out. And I read a lot, I was in therapy. I read a lot of self-help. I went to the gym a lot, but it was like a very tough, but really special and helpful time too. And I know what you mean about that anonymity too. And I think for me, it was like important to go to on the other side of the country from my family, because a lot of what I was working out too. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that this kind of stuff we're talking about can happen in many places in the country, but New York is a good place for it if you're able to go there to find yourself.
You can get lost super easily. Yeah. And sometimes it's really easy to be anonymous and crying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the things I noticed right when I moved there. Like, there's so many people just walking down the street crying.
Yeah.
But not in a like, what's wrong with this place? Just the way the city is structured, you do a lot of your living as you're walking down the street. And I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of gives you permission to just be who you are, because everybody there is just who they are, and no apologies.
Yeah. Right. And everyone's just in the midst of whatever they're in the midst of, kind of smushed up against each other, which is nice. So then did you come to California after New York?
I did. I came here after New York. I moved here and just dove into writing. I wrote 8 screenplays in 2 years. Wow. And 1 got sold and made, and 4 more got optioned. And I really, really loved it. It was really fun. And I found my people here. Mm-hmm. I never found my people in New York. I never found my people in Atlanta. I got here and I was like, oh, here's my people. I like you, and I like you, and I like you. And I've kept a lot of these people, and I've added new people. And this is where I feel the most myself. Mm-hmm. And then when I go back to Georgia, I still feel the same self. But I don't think I could have found myself in Georgia. I don't know why, but I don't think I could have. I didn't think I completely found myself till I came to LA.
Can you describe the difference between the people in New York and the people in LA? Because I have done a lot of thinking about this as well.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what you say. I just said this to someone yesterday who, I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking about somebody else who moved to New York. I felt really dumb in New York. I felt like a dumb girl because people would go, so I went to Choate and I was like, is Chota Bar? What are you talking about? I don't know what that is. And there were so many things that would. So I was shopping at this high-end designer fashion store, and I would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I just felt really dumb there. I felt very dumb and very unimportant. Not that I needed to feel important for ego, but I felt it didn't. My self-esteem didn't work there. I just felt really dumb.
It's a really hard city.
Yeah.
It's a really hard city. My whole life, I thought New York is where I will feel at home. New York is where I'm supposed to go. I grew up in Orange County, California. I never felt like I fit in there. People always assumed I was from New York. So I'm like that. And my dad is from New York originally. So I'm like, that's where I'm probably, and I was a journalist. So that's, where all the journalism was. So that's where I should go and I will feel at home there. And I loved it, but I also never quite found my people in New York. There was something, what I was sort of disappointed and disheartened by was in New York, people struck me as very serious. Like it felt like a very sober city, even though there was a ton of drinking, but just the attitude was sober and sobering. And I remember talking to my landlord in Brooklyn about that. And she's like, the city really changed after 9/11. So maybe it was different before, but just
it wasn't.
Maybe not. I mean, just juxtaposing my experience I worked at Time Out in New York, and then I worked at the OC Weekly in California before that. And at the OC Weekly, we would joke around and laugh and be silly. And it really had like a collegiate kind of feel. Whereas Time Out in New York felt so like everyone was so overworked and underpaid. And it felt like I'm fortunate that I had my job there. Thank you very much. But it felt like a sweatshop. And it was like the people here who are telling everyone what's going on in the city, we barely have time to like go out into the city and no one really talked to each other. And it was just very cold feeling. I didn't have that experience in every like work situation in New York. I had plenty of laughs and a lot of fun in different situations, but for the most part, I just like to be lighter and sillier at times. And I couldn't find that sort of light, silly absurdity in New York. And then I came back to California. I moved back and I wondered, am I making a mistake? I don't feel like I'm done with New York. And then like pretty quickly I got a job that I liked and I met Daniel, who is now my husband. And I just realized like it's easier for me to have a more balanced life somehow in California. In New York, it was just exclusively about my career and about comparing, kind of the stuff I was talking about at the beginning. So I'm not completely over it, but like comparing myself to other people and measuring my success. And that's, it was just 100% that. Whereas here, it's just much more balanced and people are funny and silly and I don't know, but I do miss New York a lot. And I certainly, I do not like hot weather. So Burbank is not my favorite, but New York is also super hot sometimes. So I don't know.
I agree with you. I totally agree with everything you said. It was very serious and sobering. And the stuff people would talk about there, I would just be totally lost. I don't think I was old enough maybe or wise enough in worldliness to have really fit in there. I remember this one really nice girl I met. I don't even remember how I met her. She was so nice to me. Invited me to the Hamptons for the weekend. And I was like, I don't really know what that is, but sure, I'll go. And she was like, pack a swimsuit. So I packed like my swimsuit and my flip flops and, no big deal. And she showed up in like high heel.
Oh, wow.
Like Givenchy shoes and like a chiffon duster over her bikini. And I went, I don't know what's happening here. I thought we were going to the beach.
Right.
So I felt that way all the time. Like everybody took themselves very seriously.
Right.
And I agree with you. Out here, you don't have to take yourself quite so seriously.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, there is a lot of self-importance there. My husband has a real, like, sometimes I feel like it's almost a chip on his shoulder, but just a real sort of anger toward people who grew up with a lot, like towards the people who went to Choate and prep schools and things like that. And so I find myself kind of defending New York and defending, not all of those people are so bad, but they definitely are self-important.
Right.
So, listen, I want to tell you guys about something that I think relates to a lot of what we're talking about, and that is BetterHelp. If you're feeling depressed or struggling with uncertainty or having difficulty sleeping or meeting your goals, BetterHelp offers online professional counselors who can listen and help. BetterHelp will help assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. So I don't know how much you guys are aware, but especially during this past year and a half, getting in with a traditional therapist can be difficult because they have these crazy waiting lists. And so I know two friends who are doing BetterHelp currently and who are finding it to be so helpful. One of them loved the therapist they were matched with right away and is still with that person. The other one felt like the first therapist they were matched with maybe wasn't the right fit. And so then they were paired with a different therapist and they love that person. They feel like they're getting so much out of it. So one of the things I love about BetterHelp is you are not committing to a bunch of sessions with someone just sight unseen. You can change therapists as many times as you want with no extra charge. And they will get you to the right person. I know when I started therapy, that was one of my concerns. Like, what if I don't know I didn't know what to expect. I don't know what if I don't like the person? What if I don't like how it feels? What if, I just was all filled with anxiety. So knowing that I would be able to get to a different person if I didn't like the first one, that would have made me feel a ton better. And also BetterHelp can be more affordable than traditional therapy, and financial aid is available. Our podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our listeners get 10% off their first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/bestfriend. Visit BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/bestfriend, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced BetterHelp professional. I also want to tell you guys about Purple mattresses. Doesn't it seem like the world's against us when it comes to getting a good night's sleep this time of year? You know who's against me when it comes to getting a good night's sleep? It's my 4.5-year-old son. He crawls into our bed. He turns sideways. He moves around a lot. But here's the thing. When you have a Purple mattress, you can sleep cool and comfortable no matter what the world or your son throws at you. That's because only Purple mattresses have the grid. And usually I have a little sample of the grid. It's this purple square of like, it's like a grid. It's, I wish I had it. Words are failing me. And that is a really terrible situation to be in. My kids grab it because it's so cool. But anyway, you know what? I'm just going to tell you more about it and then it'll bring to mind what it looks like. So it's a unique ventilated design that allows air to flow through to help you sleep cool, even when it feels like 1,000 degrees out. So I just like to hold it and squish it. It's like, it feels so good, and sleeping on it, putting your whole body on it and having the air circulate through this grid design, it's amazing. The grid is amazingly supportive for your back and legs while cushioning your shoulders, neck, and hips, no matter how you sleep. So not only is my Purple mattress the most comfortable mattress, it has made me sleep more soundly and effectively, and I know it will for you too. Try your Purple mattress risk-free with free shipping and returns. Financing is available too. Purple is comfort reinvented. Right now, you get 10% off any order of $200 or more. Go to purple.com/bestfriend10 and use promo code bestfriend10. That's purple.com/bestfriend10, promo code bestfriend10 for 10% off any order of $200 or more. Purple.com/bestfriend10, promo code bestfriend10. Terms apply. Okay. So I would love to hear how you met Bert.
How I met Bert. Well, we met twice before I remember meeting him. I have no memory of meeting him the first 2 times we met. One time he walked in on a writing session. I was writing with a partner and I was really angry. No memory of that at all. And then we met at a yoga class. No memory of that at all. But he remembered it. So the third time we met, we went bowling. So a friend of mine who was in a couple invited a bunch of people bowling. So we split the teams into singles and couples. And I was on the singles team and so was Bert. And we bowled all night. At the end of the night, I said to his roommate, "Hey, he's pretty funny. Why don't you give him my phone number? mean, we'll go out a couple times, but I'm definitely not getting involved with a comic. Famous last words, right? So,
had you dated comedians before? Is that what made you
No.
say that?
no,
But
never.
you just knew that you didn't think that was going to work out for you.
Well, I was like, I don't know why, but I instinctively was like, they can be unstable. They can be, it's such a gamble as far as your security and basic needs are concerned. I didn't know anything about his career, but I just knew comics sometimes can struggle and never make it. Not because they're not talented, just because the path doesn't kind of rise to meet them for whatever reason. And, a girl's got to take care of herself too.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, we'll just have a good time and then we'll be friends forever. That's actually what I said. We'll go out a couple times and then we'll be friends forever. And so I was like, give him my number. Like 5 days go by and he doesn't call. So I called his roommate and went, oh, what's the deal? I'm a cute girl. We had a blast bowling. Why didn't he call me? And he goes, ask him yourself. And hands Bert the phone. And I go, dude, I'm a cute girl. Why didn't you call me? And he literally went, And I was like, I knew I had a sense that he was scared of girls, right? And I use the word girls because like he was scared of dating. Like he's not scared of women. He would talk to you all day long. He's not afraid of women. But for whatever reason, girls imply someone you can date.
Right.
And he was really scared of like that. So I was like, just ask me out, dude. And I'll say yes. And so he's like, you want to go on a date? I said, yes. And then he hung the phone up and turned to his roommate and went, she's just after me for my body. I was not, for the record, after him for his body. I was not after him for his body.
That's amazing.
I thought he was fun and funny. So he shows up to the date and I'm dressed for a date. I have dress, heels, ready for a date. And he has a full-blown panic attack. His panic attack is so severe he can no longer tolerate shoes. He has to take his shoes off on our first date. And I'm like, what's happening? He takes me to dinner, can't have his shoes on, orders dinner, does not touch a bite, does not eat one bite.
Could you tell he was having a panic attack?
I could tell he was extremely nervous and flustered. And he was still trying to have fun, but I was like, he's really nervous. Like I'm not doing anything but just being myself. So I'm making him very nervous.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't let our date end. Like we finished dinner and he's like, how about we go over here and get dessert? Okay. How about we go over here and get a drink? Okay. We close the bar down. He walks me home. He's like, how about I come in? And I was like, how about I see you another time? Right. He calls me at 9:00 the next day. What are you doing tonight?
Oh.
Next day. What are you doing tonight? Next day. What are you doing tonight? And for what I believe in signs, I'm such a weirdo that way, but I believe in like signs. And the first time he told me his telephone number, I remembered it.
Oh,
Very
wow.
first time. He gave me his number and I remembered it. And I went, that's interesting. And then a few other little things like that happened really right in the beginning of our relationship. And I thought, I should pay attention to this guy because that's not a coincidence.
What were the other signs?
I can't remember, but I remember the phone number. That was the first one. I remember thinking to myself, this guy has a great voice. I could listen to that every day. And then I just remember little things like the phone number incident happening and my sixth sense going, you should pay attention here. So after some time, I was like, wow, I've been dating these like, 3-piece suit, real stable, super good looking, completely without personality people,
Were you
thinking
just
that's
using
what I
them
needed.
for their body?
Yes, I was. In fact, I was. No, I didn't know. I don't think I understood what I needed. So, so we dated for a while and then we were like, oh yeah, I think this is actually going to work. We're really good friends on top of being, in love. But when we were first dating, we were both very broke and our dates consisted of like Scrabble tournaments. And we were like, if we can play Scrabble for 6 hours, I think we're going to be okay. So that's kind of how we started. It's been an interesting ride to start out with a comic that was not successful, that was not touring, that was making maybe $500 a week if he was lucky, to where he is now. It's been really inspiring to watch him grow. So I feel very privileged to have been with him this long.
If you were to put into words what it was he had that you needed, like what would you say it is? Because it's interesting.
I know exactly, yeah.
It's so interesting the way life works, because I think that hearing about your upbringing, someone might think one of these like super quote unquote stable 3-piece suit guys, like that would be good for you. And then it turns out to be Bert, who's somewhat unpredictable.
Well, I think that is a double-edged sword. I think Bert is not a narcissist, but he is very self-focused. So one might mistake that as narcissism, but that's actually not it. He's not a selfish person. He's very giving, but he's very self-focused. And because of my upbringing, I'm not really comfortable being cared for like a lot of women want to be cared for. I don't really like that so much. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. So I think that kind of worked, that he's not someone he's a very caring, loving person, but he's not a doting, like.
Does it make you feel smothered, or it's because your mother was so focused and controlling, or because you never had someone who cared for you, it feels weird?
I think kind of both. I think this focused and smothered, I do feel very smothered if someone's like, so now what do you need? So now what are we going to do? So now I'm like, oh my God. So now I'm going to go in this room by myself for 15 minutes and then we'll be back. So I think it's that. And I think the other part of it was, this sounds really funny, but from the beginning, he was so in love with me that I thought, this guy's never leaving. Like, my experience of love was, if I make my mommy mad, she leaves. And she leaves for real. Like, she left for 1.5 years when I was 4. And then she left again for like 2 years when I was 13. And then she left again when I was 23. And she leaves like done. She leaves and she takes her whole family with her. Like, when she leaves, usually no one in her entire family will speak to me. They're all, it's too much trouble to go against her. So they just stay in her little cowboy town.
Right.
And I ride off by myself. So I just had this sense that he would never leave. Like, I would have to do something so egregious, which is so out of character for who I am, to make him leave, that piece of it, I thought, well, that's where I need to be, is somewhere where I feel seen for who I am and adored for it. Even with my warts and my flaws, I for sure feel that way, that Bert feels that way about me. And my dad always felt that way about me. There was nothing I could have done that would have made my dad not love me. So I'm sure these 3-piece suit guys had all that somewhere inside, but I couldn't really feel it the way I felt it from Bert. Yeah. So.
Oh.
It was undeniable
sweet.
from Bert Kreischer. He's a
then,
very sweet guy.
When he called you at 9 a.m. the next day, did you hang out like nonstop?
We did. I was like, I'm actually going to yoga. You're welcome to come with me. And he was like, okay. I didn't change my life for him. I continued my life and invited him to join me. So, and he did. So, and I joined him in his life some too. He is an excellent cook. If I could go never cook again, I'd be good. And so we'd go to yoga, and then I'd go to his house and he'd cook me dinner. And then we go for a hike the next day, and then I'd go to his house and he'd cook me dinner. So it kind of evolved like that, where we kind of wove ourselves in and out of each other's lives. I definitely didn't just go, well, let me just see you every day. I remember there was a certain point where I was like, we don't have to see each other every day. It's cool if we don't see each other. And he was like, no, but I want to see you.
Aww.
But I want to see you. Like, you're the person I want to see. And I thought, that's so nice to hear. And then at the same time, the flip side of the frat boy that I married, we were at a party after we'd been together for like 3 months. And he was like, yeah, this is my friend LeeAnn. And I went, I'm your girlfriend. And he goes, well, I mean, we're not using that terminology. And I was like, dude, I'm 31 years old. You spend every waking moment with me. I'm your girlfriend. So call me your girlfriend. And he goes, yeah, I guess you're right. I think you are my girlfriend. I'm like, yeah. Frat boy that you are. Yeah. So
that's so good that you knew yourself and what you needed, though. Again, I'm dazzled by your wisdom, LeeAnn.
I don't know about dazzled. I have to say, I dated a lot of guys. I really tried to figure it out. And And I dated a lot of duds, a lot of great guys, but there were a lot of guys where I was like, why am I here? This is not at all what I want or need. So it wasn't that easy. It just kind of happened because I worked at it.
You mentioned how it's been really inspiring to watch his trajectory from, struggling comedian to super successful now. Along that path, has the success introduced challenges into your life, marriage?
Yeah, for sure. Bert has something that we call Bert Mode. And when Bert's been the king for too long, he has a hard time just being Bert. And so if he's been on the road for a while, we have a period we openly call reentry. Where I'm like, we're in reentry. So that means I'm going to push back when you say, hey, babe, how about you do every single thing for me? Because you have someone else who's been doing every single thing for you. And that's not the nature of our relationship. And I think if I would let it, so would he. He'd be like, works for me that you do everything for me. And I am not going to be that person. So sometimes that hurts his feelings a lot. And sometimes I'm impatient with his hurt feelings because I feel like after this long, dude, you should have figured this out. You don't just come home and start bossing me around like I work for you because I don't work for you. And you get your feelings hurt. And why? Why are we doing this again? That has been a challenge, that kind of cyclical reentry that happens.
I have some of, not the same thing, but I am relating to the, I hope my husband doesn't hear this, but if he, I love you, honey. But there are certain things where his feelings will get hurt over something. And it's like, we have been through this so many times. And I find, because I want to be the person who, when someone's feelings are hurt, compassion is what I lead with. But I do find myself that is not, my go-to, but I am, like you said, I'm impatient. Or like you said, you're impatient. I also am impatient because I feel like, yeah, we have been through this, and I am, your hurt feelings are a sign that you're not seeing me in this situation. So how do you deal with that? How do you work your way out of that?
That's a really tough one. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just have to eat it. And that's a flaw that I have. Is because sometimes, my comic husband can be very fragile and can be very reactive and emotional. And we joke all the time that he's the woman and I'm the man in this relationship. I do not get my feelings hurt ever. I mean, it is so hard for you to hurt my feelings. I don't take things personally. If you're in a bad mood that has nothing to do with me, you can rant and rave all day long if that's what you need to do. But I mean, he calls me dead inside because I don't take that shit personally. I just go, your bad mood has nothing to do with me unless I pissed you off, and then let's talk about it. But that's not how he functions. So sometimes I have to just say, what is it worth for me to really get into this with him? It's not worth it. So I'm just going to let the hullabaloo blow, and tomorrow we're going to be good. But I'm not sure that's entirely healthy because I don't always get a voice. So like you said, like you just described, Bert's feelings are hurt, but my side is never considered. Like, my wife would never do that intentionally. Or, my wife didn't mean to hurt my feelings. Maybe I should give her the benefit of the doubt. Oh, that never happens at my house. I have always intentionally tried to destroy him. And I'm like, dude, I would never do that. That's not who I am. But that's how he feels.
Right.
And so I try to just kind of say, let him have the feeling, because anything I say sort of makes it worse. If I try to say, but let's consider the other side. Oh my God, it just makes it so much worse. I can consider the other side the next day when all these feelings have calmed down. But sometimes I want to say, motherfucker, shove it up your ass. We have talked about this 8,000 times and I'm fucking sick of it. Grow up. Like, that's how I feel. But what do I get from saying that?
Yeah.
I get a huge fight. Is that what I want? Or do I want to work it out? Well, the person that I married is not a person who can bring his level 13 emotions to a 3, which is where they should be in the moment. He can't do that. So it'd be like me expecting an 8-year-old to drive a car. I can't expect an 8-year-old to drive a car.
Right.
So I can wait till the 8-year-old turns 16. So that's what I kind of have to do. I have to wait till the 8-year-old turns 16 the next day, and then we can drive around together. But it is very frustrating. It's one of the reasons I'm still in therapy, because I'll call my therapist my weekly session and go, here's what happened. Here's where I should be vindicated. Here's what I did right. And she'll just, walk me through it and validate me if it's necessary and tell me where I screwed up if I did. And then I can kind of process it out. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's healthy, but that's kind of how I do it.
It seems like it's working for you guys. I mean, it seems like you have a lot of clarity about it too.
One thing that I saw my mom not do that I was determined to do is this goes back to the very beginning of your podcast, is to want the other person to be happy as much as I want myself to be happy. Not to want them to be happy more than I want myself, but to at least be mindful that their happiness matters.
Yeah.
And so if I can always do that, then it makes my endurance of whatever drama is happening for Bert easier, because I really do want him to be happy. I don't want him to feel this way. So if I can kind of keep in mind that my role, at least, is to make sure that I'm always mindful of his happiness as well as my own, then I feel like I'm doing a good job. Even if we have a contentious fight, or even if we don't get over it till the next day, if that's my intention, then I can't do much better than that.
That is a really good intention.
Wow.
So we have some questions that listeners sent in. I take questions so I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/Allison Rosen, all sorts of fun stuff there. Weekly bonus episode called The Friend Zone. Zoom parties. There's a level where you can text me and I will text you back. Yesterday I was on the exercise bike watching The White Lotus. Guess who got to hear about that? It's the people. I should be paying them to tell them, but they're signed up to hear about that. Tony, what am I for? Oh, I know. On the Thursday group show, the patrons get the videos to those shows, and that's super fun. So patreon.com/Allison Rosen, and you can submit questions for guests. And I always forget to mention till the very end when I'm talking about something else. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. I meant to tell you. So I'm just going to remember, and I'm going to tell you now. If you sign up for an annual subscription, you get 2 months free. So it's 12 months for the price of 10. Okay, let's answer some questions.
When we ask, they send them in. They're wondering how you have been. So thanks so much for answering these questions from our fans.
All right. So first is a comment, not a question, but Leanne Ward says, I'm looking forward to this interview. She was a hoot on Childish, especially when she demonstrated how she talks to her chickens. Yes, how are the girls?
They have passed.
Oh, no.
A possum got in the coop.
Oh, no.
And I thought I'd gotten rid of the possum, and he was a sneaky sucker. And they're really stupid. You know why? He killed the chicken to eat the egg. Where does he think the egg came from? Is the egg just going to magically appear next day?
Right.
No. I was devastated. I was heartbroken. This sneaky asshole snuck in the coop in daylight and stayed there until the chickens went in at dark, and I closed them in at dark to keep them safe. And he killed them. So, but my 2 bull mastiffs got revenge.
They
caught the possum. Yeah. The possum got in the coop after all the chickens were gone, and the dogs got the possum.
Oh, so, boy. Real
little street justice. Some frontier justice, right? I'm super devastated. And now that we've moved, once we get settled, I will be getting some more chickens.
How many did you have?
3.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that I just without knowing anything, just asked that question. So hopefully I brought up this trauma.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's tough.
Sweet girls.
Yeah. But you're going to get more.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we had a duck and a chicken. I had many, but at this point, just one duck and a chicken. And a coyote got our duck, and they're very vulnerable.
Yes, they are.
And apparently delicious to other animals and to us, really.
And to
Think
us,
about
yeah,
it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Christina says, ask her about her health kick and how she is stuck with it. She looks amazing.
Oh, that's so nice. You know, I am an elite athlete. Totally. No. A couple years ago, I realized, you know, I'm 51 next week. And probably when I was about 48, I realized I was having a hard time just standing up from the floor. And I thought to myself, that's not okay. I'm like 48. I need to figure something out. So at the same time, I'd had a back injury and I couldn't get anybody to really figure out what was going on with my back. I found a chiropractor that helped me, but she was like, now you got to start like working out with a trainer who knows how to rehab this part of your body. Let me tell you something. I resisted working out with personal trainers my whole life, thinking I can do this. I know how to get on the treadmill. I know how to lift dumbbells. I don't need a personal trainer. I was totally incorrect. At my age, which is not old, but I'm not young either. This is when things start changing in your body, especially your musculature. Working out with a trainer has been life-changing, absolutely life-changing, because I feel so strong. I don't think I've felt this strong since I was probably in my early 20s. My body doesn't look like I'm in my early 20s per se, but I feel really good, and it's from the trainer. And I know not everybody has access to that, but there are ways to get training without paying a premium. And, you know, a lot of gyms offer personal training for free for some sessions. My trainer has been on my podcast. And you're welcome to listen to that episode. But he says any personal trainer who's in the personal training business to help people will understand when someone has a financial issue and will be helpful because that's what they started doing that for. So there's always a way to find someone who can help you if you're really motivated. But that's my health kick.
I am relating to this so much. I'm 46, 2 little kids. So there's a ton of getting on the floor, getting up from the floor. And just the other day, I had a sore neck all day and I don't even know what I did. Like I turned the wrong way or something. It's just, yeah, I am feeling my age. Can I ask you this super, super personal, but I feel like you're kind of an open book. Perimenopause, menopause, all of that. Do you talk about that stuff?
Oh, it sucks. I am in perimenopause. I sweat fucking buckets. I sweat like Pavlovian. I feel like the minute the sunshine hits my body, I'm like an oil slick. And it's definitely hormonal. There's so many things that have happened in my hormone. And I've been perimenopausal for a long time. People don't realize that sometimes it can last like 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, I think I'm perimenopausal.
I started.
My periods are insane right now.
Insane, like heavy?
They're irregular. I have endometriosis. I've always had. Sorry, Tony, cover your ears.
Girl talk.
Abusing you with our gal chat. In fact, we should hear gal chat.
Gal chat.
Thank you. Yeah, so always had bad cramps, always had heavy periods, but in this past year, there were a couple months where it was like 40 or 50 days between periods. And I was like, this is great and weird, but great. And then more recently, it's been like there's 21 days between and they're super, super heavy.
Yeah, my friend is going through that. Mine are like, I'm still on birth control because of my husband. And if you have a period at all, my doctor said, if you have any type of period in like within 12 months, you can still get pregnant. And so I'm still on the pill because my husband will not get fixed. So
do you want him to?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to be off the pill.
Right.
But he is not interested. Not interested in taking that off the market. I don't know who he's remarrying at what point, but I was
it's like, reversible.
I told him that. He's like, no. Whatever. whatever. But so yeah, I started night sweating probably 8 years ago. I mean, like to the point where I have to change clothes.
Right.
It's so intense and it's really miserable. But my periods I have every month because I'm on the pill, but they're like, bloop. And
that's
you're done.
nice. That's
Bloop.
nice.
I have a friend I went on a flight with, and she was like, oh shit, in the middle of the flight. And before she could even get to the bathroom, she'd messed the whole chair up. And I was like, how embarrassing to be 50.
Yeah. No, that's going to be me. Like, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about just getting the whole kit and caboodle taken out.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, now, why do you say that though? Because I actually, the BRCA gene, which is that genetic mutation that increases your chances of getting breast or ovarian cancer, runs in my family. I don't have it, but because it runs in my family, a doctor told me, like, when you're done having your kids, you should probably think about getting that stuff out. So I do have an indication, but I've just started thinking about it again. Like, maybe it's time to sort of look into that more.
Right.
But then I know that there's also reasons to keep it all, but I forget what they are.
I think it's still hormonally based.
Yeah.
The reasons to keep it is about your hormones.
Well, so I would then go on replacement hormones, but that sounds like I always hated being on the pill. That sounds like a real unfun journey to figure out like what level of hormones are working. And then also I feel like my metabolism, I've always had a sluggish metabolism, but I feel like it's like even more sluggish. And I just wonder what would happen to that.
Yeah, your hormones regulate so much. And I don't even really think modern medicine completely understands the female hormone at all,
right.
Really. So, I mean, obviously, if you are predisposed or you have that genetic background, that's a different ball game. But I think for most people, from what I understand in all my medical expertise,
right,
which is zero, but all I've ever heard is you should try and keep as much of your lady parts as you can because of your hormones, because you need those hormones all your life. And they do produce hormones all your life. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think I need to talk to a doctor. Do you have a doctor you like?
I am so freaking from the farm. I just go to my like regular doctor for all my lady parts. Yeah. I'm like, do I need to go to a special doctor? She's like, do you have any kind of history of any kind of lady doctor type problems? And I was like, no, I got nothing. So she's like, no, I don't know why you need to go see an gynecologist.
A fancy gynecologist.
Yeah, it's too fancy for me. I'm a one-stop shop girl.
Yeah. People who went to Choate see gynecologists.
In the Hamptons. They do. With their high heel flip-flops on.
That's right. Okay. Joy Whitbeck has a question. We covered it a little bit, but based on what we listeners know about her relationship with Bert from their podcast, I assume she's not often given space to have a bad day or morning or moment without it spreading around the house. My impression is that she is a very strong and positive person, but we all have low points. How does she deal with these and care for herself while supporting her family? P.S. Thank you for your interview with Bert a few years ago. It led me to find and enjoy Bertcast and then Wife of the Party.
Oh, that's nice.
That's so nice. I know. Yeah.
She is completely accurate. If I'm having a low day, it does affect Bert. It doesn't affect the girls. They're pretty strong, independent individuals, our two girls, and they're 15 and 17. So I'm sure when they're younger, if I had a bad day, it affected them, but I don't really have a lot of bad days. I guess I am dead inside. I mean, I don't really have, you know what? When on this journey of self-discovery, I did two things that were really important. One was I created my own Bible. I am not religious, but I started a notebook where I started collecting thoughts and ideas that were in alignment with what I thought was the best expression of your higher self. They could have been lyrics to a song, poetry, lines out of a magazine, a quote from Bette Midler. I mean, I have this Bible is full of all kind of stuff. And I reference that all the time. I started that Bible in 1996 and I still add to it today. So if anybody says anything or if I read something that I go, yes, that's what I'm talking about. I need to remember that. I need to keep that as part of my soul. I put it in this book.
I love that.
It's my Bible. And then
That
the
is
other thing,
so I got to do that because I'm always like, I need to make a file of somewhere to go to like remind myself of things like that. But then I don't actually. I'll bookmark an Instagram post every now and again, but that's not the same.
it's maybe not the same, but and I still, if I ever do feel kind of low, I pick that book up and just open it. And then I believe that whatever I'm supposed to hear is where I open the book, and I'll read it and go, guess I was supposed to hear that today. Move on. And every single thing I put in that book has inspired me, really moved
I love
me.
that. I know for a period of time you were putting a quote on a clipboard, like quote of the week, right? Are those from the Bible?
Yes, that's all from my Bible.
I love that.
And then the other thing I did a long time ago is I decided that I would live my life with grace and gratitude, the 2 G's. So every morning before my feet hit the floor, I am grateful. I just wake up with gratitude. And it's never specific. I'm not like, I'm grateful for my health or I'm grateful that I am secure. It's just a general gratitude. And every single night I say the Lord's Prayer. And I'm not even religious. But that prayer, for whatever reason, is like ritualistic to me, of a way of just saying I am connected to my higher self and to God and to the spirit world or whatever you want to say. But for me, it was too task oriented to go, thank you for this and thank you for that. And I pray for this to happen. And part of me doesn't really believe in that. If to pray for like, I want to be a millionaire, I think that's disrespectful to the being you're praying to. They should tell you how you are, or the universe should lay it out for you. This is your abundance, or this is your success. And for you to ask for it puts parameters on what you're open to receive. So then you're open to receiving what you've asked for, instead of just saying, I accept whatever it is you give me and I'm grateful for it. And so those 2 things keep me kind of stable. I really don't wake up in a bad mood very often. It's really rare. Now, if I get sick, like the flu, I'm screwed because I'm like in bed and Bert's like, hey, have you seen my car keys? And I'm like, dude, I have a fever. You know where my wallet is? Oh my God. You can't just help me find my wallet? And I'm like, dude, I have the flu. That's the one time where he has a hard time balancing. But
What about when your girls were little? Did you wake up with gratitude then? Like when they were babies? And I'm just thinking about how often I wake up in a not great mood.
not always, for sure. And I definitely had postpartum with Isla. I'm sure I had it with Georgia to some extent, but I definitely had it with Isla. And my heart was completely full of hate every minute of every day. I hated everything. I was very rageful. My postpartum was rageful. It wasn't depression. So, yeah, I definitely had those moments. And I definitely have moments when you have a toddler who's like throwing food at your head. I'm not like, I'm so grateful. I don't want you to think that. I mean, I am human, but I try to start my day, being grateful. Be grateful that I have a kid that's going to throw food at my head. And then I'll have that story to tell when she's getting married and when she has her own kids.
I had a bout with postpartum as well. Do you have theories for why you got it with Isla
and not with Georgia?
Yeah, like where there's for me, I had a traumatic birth, and I think it was just like I was just like, what? My kid had to go to the NICU, and so I didn't get to hold him for a while. And I think I guess it was like 5 months after, I was just like, something's not right in my head. Like I'm thinking of horrible outcomes and I'm anxious all the time. And this is more than just baby blues. And so then I got back into therapy then. But what was going on with you?
I was just angry all the time. I was angry, and I almost had like 2 people in my head where I knew that what I was feeling was not correct. But I was still feeling it, and I couldn't regulate it. Like I'm a super regulated person. I just naturally self-regulate. and I was not self-regulating. And I knew that was not me. Like this is not me. So I remember one time I thought to myself, it would feel so good to throw Isla on the bed and watch her bounce. Just watch her body just go boom. That would feel so good. So I put her down gently and went in the bathroom and broke the toilet.
With what?
I picked the toilet lid off the tank and just slammed it on the toilet and broke it. And I was like, I feel much better. I feel so much better. I probably should call my doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call my doctor because this is not, I've now reached a place where this might become unmanageable really soon. And, I was by myself. Bert was on the road. So I didn't really have a lot of breaks. And I think I was angry about that too. Not angry at Bert, just angry that this is the way it was and that I didn't have any options. And we were so broke, we couldn't afford a nanny. I didn't have any help. And I don't have a mom, so I didn't have anybody to fly in. I had my mother-in-law, but that's different. It's just kind of different. I always felt like I'm imposing, even though she never felt that way or indicated that she did. My aunt would come to town. I'd be like, here, take her for 20 days. I'm good. But I would never do that to my mother-in-law.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, mine was just almost inability to control rage till I broke the toilet. And then I went, okay, I think I need to go to the doctor.
And then you got help and it abated?
It did. You know what? She did some blood work and she was like, you have almost no estrogen in your body. So you need to go back on the pill. And as soon as the pill was in my body for, I'm not joking, like maybe 3 days. And I was like, oh, I feel so much better. Okay. No more rage. It all just kind of went. Not that I didn't ever get mad at my kids, but I didn't have the I would love to throw my child down and just watch her. But I didn't have any of those thoughts again. So it was completely a hormonal imbalance for me.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And you got help through therapy?
Yeah, I went to therapy. I had never been on an antidepressant before. I had been sort of wary of them. Although at this point, everyone around me was on something and it was helping them a ton. So I was open to it for the first time. So I went on Lexapro and that helped a lot too. And I still see that same therapist now. She specializes in, she sees all kinds of people, but I think she specializes in postpartum women. So, and then, they say that it takes I want to say 6 weeks for the full effects of an antidepressant to kick in, but maybe it's just because I was actually getting help, but within a few days, I noticed that I was actually singing to my kids and without crying and it really turned around pretty quickly.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that it's not. I don't know if it's not socially acceptable all over the U.S. or it's a shame that people can't just let themselves be helped when they have that problem because it is so clearly about an imbalance.
Right.
And what do you expect? Your body's just completely turned inside out and then put itself back right side in. Yeah. How could you not have some kind of imbalance? It doesn't even the math of that doesn't even add up.
Right. Right. I know. And I was surrounded by all these stories of the second I held my child, I felt a love unlike anything I had ever known. And I was like, I'm not having that. What is happening?
No, I didn't have that with either kid, actually.
Yeah.
I had a really, really difficult childbirth with Georgia. There was nothing wrong with Georgia, but I had a hard time. And I remember just being I think I just got hit by a truck and I'm supposed to actually love that thing. That is the truck that just hit me.
Right.
This is really, really hard. Not that I didn't love her, obviously, immediately, but I did not feel that warm and fuzzy thing that everybody felt. Right. I felt like I'd just been hit by a truck.
Yeah.
It's really crazy childbirth. And you're not allowed to say that.
It is even a good one is traumatic. It's just insane. I remember thinking, I can't believe every human on this earth, their mother went through this. I can't believe that it sort of altered what I think of the human experience as, that it starts in this violent, traumatic way. I mean, those are sort of pejorative terms, but that's how I saw it at the time. But then with Owen, my second, because I had been in therapy, I switched hospitals, I switched doctors, and I did a lot of work with my therapist on, to the extent I could control it, like trying to have a better experience. And with Owen, and also with Elliot, that's my epidural didn't work. I was in a lot of pain. There was like a lot of stuff that didn't go right. But with Owen, my epidural did work. And so, when it kicked in, like it felt so good just to not be, did you have an epidural?
Yes, and my first one turned into a spinal and did not work. And then my second one worked. And I always say delivering Isla was like giving birth to a feather.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what was happening. I mean, they came in and were like, okay, time to push. And I'm like, seriously? I don't feel anything.
Yes. I had just been resting. It was so different, but because I do this with myself, like I begin to distrust my own perceptions and things. So the more time that passed after I had given birth to Elliot, the more I began to think, well, maybe it was working. Like maybe I imagined this or that, or maybe I don't know. I didn't know what was, because parts of me were numb. And I needed one stitch afterwards, and I could feel the needle going in, but I didn't feel pain. Mm-hmm. So I thought, maybe I'm just so fragile that like the pressure was feeling like pain or whatever. But then with Owen, when I felt what an epidural that works actually felt like, I was like, oh no, this definitely was not working the first time. And then with Owen, I was able to hold him like shortly after the birth, and, much more like the kind of birth you would want. And I remember when I would hold him and like do skin to skin, I really did feel that calm and that peace and all that stuff that you're supposed to feel. So that was very nice to be able to experience that.
Yeah, I felt similarly. My labor with Georgia, when they botched my epidural and I had a spinal, that meant I was fully paralyzed, like completely paralyzed from the waist down. And then as soon as the medication would wear off, I'd go to full pain. And then, it made me vomit the entire time.
Oh God.
I tore terribly. I had lots of stitches. And I went into some kind of like, I don't know if it's shock, but I started shaking like this. And then as soon as she was born, I was just like, forever. And then everyone left the room, and Georgia was born at 7:35. Shift change is 7:30.
Oh, that's not
They walked
great.
out the door and turned the lights out, and no one
my
came back
God.
for me for an hour. I sat in the dark and shook by myself for a full hour. I was so traumatized by all of that.
That's so awful.
So Bert's in like my room where I'm supposed to be with family members, and they're like, all of a sudden they go, hey, where's LeeAnn? No one ever came back to get me. So
and where was Georgia at this point?
She was in the nursery. They were bathing her and doing all this stuff. And so they sent someone back to get me. And I'm like, it was so awful. And then
That is awful.
I don't know if this happened for you, but when you have a spinal, your spinal fluid actually leaks. So when it happened, they were like, just so you know, you're going to have the most excruciating headache for the next 10 days. So I hope you have someone who can care for your baby, because you won't be able to sit upright.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, what? And thank God my aunt was there, who's a labor and delivery nurse in Georgia. And she went, yep, this is going to be rough. So you're going to lay down, and I'm just going to feed you Vicodin, and I'll bring you the baby when it's time for her to eat. And then we're just going to leave, and you're just going to sleep, and you're just going to cry. And it's just going to have to happen. It's going to take about 10 days for that little piece of your spine to heal. And then you get to withdraw from Vicodin. So isn't it fun? And you'll be constipated. It's going to be awesome.
Was the headache super bad?
It was so bad that I didn't even feel it. I was having an out of body experience.
Oh gosh.
Like I could hear myself whimpering as I sat upright. Like he was like, if you lay flat, you won't have any pain. But once you sit upright, it's going to be excruciating, even with the Vicodin.
Right.
So I would sit up and I'd hear myself go, and then I'd cry all the way to the bathroom, and then I'd cry all the way back, and I'd lay down and it would go away. And it was so painful, I didn't even really feel the pain. I just heard myself feeling the pain. It was awful.
I did not have that, but with epidurals, they always say one of the potential complications or side effects, like, one in however many women do get these headaches. But no, I didn't have that. So that sounds brutal.
It was awful. It's 1%. 1% get that headache.
Yeah.
So I said to all my friends, I have taken care of your 1%. Go in with confidence.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. Joe Cooley says, what is Bert getting Tom for Christmas?
Oh, God. This, I don't know. And I don't want to know. I think I know, but I can't tell you. And
Yeah.
I'm not. It's not good. It's not good for me. It's good for, they think it's really funny, but.
They just keep getting each other extravagant gifts?
Yes. We just bought Tom a Wave Runner. Tom bought Bert an electric bicycle. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what Bert bought Tom to start this whole shenanigans. So I think it's Bert's turn to receive something from Tom. So Bert's birthdays, they do it on their birthdays, not Christmas. Mm-hmm. So Bert's birthday's in November. So he's called me and been like, how about like a golf cart for your backyard? And I'm like, don't need a golf cart. How about a bomb shelter? How about pass? I don't want to dig a hole in my backyard. No. What else? How about what did he say? A Polaris with a gun rack. I'm like, we live in Sherman Oaks. I'd be run out of town if I had a Polaris with a gun rack in Sherman Oaks. I can't know. So who knows what Tom's going to come up with? I have no idea.
That is hilarious. Okay. Anna Q says, expecting a girl in November and would love any tips on raising girls. I have a 3-year-old son, so I'm nervous and excited for girl energy.
Oh, and you have 2 boys, don't you, Alice?
I have 2 boys, yeah.
My advice for girls would be probably the same advice for boys is I tried to see who they were as individuals and like build on that. Not who they were as girls, but who they were as individuals. And then to just, it's hard when you have the same gender kid sometimes, I think, because it's very natural to compare. Mm-hmm. This one does this one doesn't. I try really hard not to do that. But the other side of that coin is you can't parent them the same either. We don't hit each other. That's the same for both kids. But one kid of mine is dyslexic. One can phone it in and get straight A's. So I can't really parent them the same in school. And I think that's hard for the 2 girls to kind of reconcile. Mm-hmm. So I continually talk to them because girls are so complicated and can be very emotional and can be emotional and not tell you or show you. So I try to watch them and to kind of have conversations with them about why I parent the way I parent so that they can see that I see who they really are and that I'm parenting to that and that may not make them happy and that they may look at their sister and go, I know that Georgia spent a lot of time going, why do you spend so much time with Isla with her schoolwork? Well, Isla's really dyslexic. So if Isla has to read 30 pages in her U.S. history book, she needs some help. You don't need that help. You need help in other areas. But I never want Georgia to feel slighted because her sister needs help in a place where she doesn't. So, and I think that happens maybe with girls more than what I observe with boys. I don't have boys, but what I observe with boys is they could care less about some of that stuff. But girls kind of do. So I try to see who they really are and just build on that. And to also say, my girls are so different. You're so lucky that you have a sister who is different from you in these ways. Because you know what? When you decide you're going to lease your first apartment and you can't read the lease contract and understand it, you call your sister and go, hey, can you read this lease contract and explain it to me? And she can. And when your sister is trying to decorate her house, she'll call you and go, hey, does this couch go with this chair? Because Isla's really good at visual art. So if you can show them how they benefit from the other person's differences, I think it's really positive and powerful to help them kind of embrace that instead of being competitive with it. I think girls are far more competitive than boys. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I hope that was helpful.
I think that's really helpful. LeeAnn, it's been so nice having you on the show and getting to know you. Thank you so much. And we didn't even do Just Mirror Everyone or Hey, Go Fuck Yourself, my other segments. So you'll just have to come back someday.
Well, I have them prepared. So whenever you're ready, I have them prepared.
Well, I mean, I feel like we have to do at least one of them then, since you have them. Which one do you want to do?
Okay, we'll do the easiest one because the cursing someone out might take 15 minutes.
Okay. Wait, hang on 1 second. If we're going to Just Mirror Everyone.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
Okay, this is something you think or do and you wonder, is it just me or is it everyone?
Okay. Is it just me or I'm kind of embarrassed to say this.
No, don't be. We reveal all sorts of embarrassing things. Lost the ability to speak. We reveal all sorts of embarrassing things is what I was trying to say.
And then you're going to say you're embarrassed about that, but I take a wet cloth and wipe my couch down regularly. Is that just me or is that everyone?
Well, I am kind of fastidious about the couch too, but I will take. Okay, well, so my kids, we use water wipe. This is probably so bad for the environment, but we use water wipes all the time. Like those are the best butt wipes I find for little kids. But I've found that water wipes are really good at cleaning up stains as well. So if I see something on the couch, I'll take a water wipe to it, and I do that like throughout the day all the time. But I don't just take a wet cloth and wipe the entire couch down. Is that what you do?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Tell me more.
Well,
Why?
Because I feel like unless your couch is white, and I have a new couch which is not white, you can't really see when it's dirty. So then I don't want it to be dirty. So I wipe it. And I'm not like this. No, I can have no germs and no dirt, but I have 230-pound dogs that sit on my couch. So I feel like it might be dirty and I can't really see that it's dirty.
I feel like this is just responsible couch maintenance.
I don't know. I feel like it might be a little quirky.
I mean, maybe a little bit. Let's see. Tony, do you find yourself wiping your couch down?
No, I can't say that I've ever done that. And I honestly didn't know that was a thing anybody did. It's not a judgment. I just didn't know.
Maybe it's just me.
I mean, I think that some people would be worried about getting moisture on the couch, but your couch is a material where this is good. Wait, you take a wet cloth, you said?
Yeah. Just like a
slightly damp.
Like a dishcloth with water on it. And we have this like performance fabric. It's like a performance fabric.
Yes.
So.
My couch is microfiber. I'm on my second microfiber couch. I love it.
They're the best. They're the best.
Yeah. So, yeah, Tony, maybe you should be doing this.
I mean, hey, I'll give it a shot. Why not?
If you guys would like to share your Just Mirror Everyone's, tweet them to us at ARIYNBF with the hashtag JMOE. Thank you for sharing that with us, LeeAnn. I'm sure that people are going to write in and say that they also do stuff like this. I mean, it just sounds like you're keeping your couch in good condition. Thank you so much for being on the show. Tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find your podcast, etc.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun. It's always nice to talk to you, Allison.
So good to talk to you, too.
My kids met you maybe one time, and they still talk about you from time to time.
That's so sweet. I know Bert tells me that, or like he sent me a picture, or maybe he put it on Instagram, of my Allison Rosen's Your Best Friend sticker on the bunk bed.
Yep. They have outgrown the bunk beds, but that sticker stayed there for a long time. That's really cool. It's really cool that they get to meet people like you, who get to live their best life and live their dream and be an entertainer. And I think it's really cool.
Thank you.
It's great to see successful women, in any capacity, come in and out of their house. So yeah, they still ask about you and talk about you. It's really cool.
I'm so flattered. Tell them I say hello.
I will. So I have a podcast called Wife of the Party. You can go to wifeotp.com. There are links there to all my episodes. I am on YouTube, Wife of the Party YouTube page. And yeah, I guess that's it. That's how you find me.
Thank you so much. Listeners, if you like what you're hearing, please make sure that you're subscribed or following or whatever the terminology is in your app of choice so that you get the automatic episodes so that you don't miss one. Subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/Allison Rosen. Leave us a nice comment on Apple Podcasts. It helps out the show. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Allison Rosen. I'm on Cameo as well. I already mentioned Patreon. Oh, and I'm an influencer on Amazon. I like to play it close to the vest. I don't talk about it nonstop, but you can go to amazon.com/shop/Allison Rosen, amazon.com/shop/Allison Rosen. My mouth has decided that I should be done talking is what's happening, but you can shop my podcast gear, makeup, home stuff for the kids, Daniel's Corner, etc. So go check that out. Tony, where do we find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at
Tony Thaxton.
And my podcast, Bizarre Albums, every Tuesday.
Thank you again, LeeAnn. This was so much fun. Tell everyone I say hello. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen Show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go.